Okay, so when HL asked me to speak, it's been like a year ago, actually. Um, it's not that I've been like putting it off or anything. It's because he told me, we're going to start a church and I'm going to want you to talk probably within the first 2 months. So I, at that time, started thinking about what I wanted to talk about. So I've had a long stretch, and this might be my only shot, depending on how I do. And so I wanted to pick something that I feel confident about and competent talking about and that I'm passionate about. So the thing that stuck out to me looking back over my long 35 years of life is the importance of trusting God. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And I think, there's almost maybe nothing that I could talk about that would be more important than this topic. And it can impact your life maybe more than anything else. And so I hope that what I'm going to say will encourage you guys and help you a lot. And I want to, people always say trusting God. Well, what does that mean? And I made up my own little definition. It's based on Scripture, kind of a summary of stuff. But it says trusting God is choosing to believe that He's good, He loves you, and everything is going to be okay. So as I talk, when you hear me say trust God, that's what I'm talking about, this definition. Choosing to believe that He's good, He loves you, and everything is going to be okay. And this verse has kind of been like my life verse. A lot of you might be familiar with it. It's kind of a popular verse, and it's very... it's probably maybe one of the first verses I memorized, and I think that it's very easy to understand and applicable to most people. And it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your paths. So that's kind of that's our foundation for today, for what I'm going to talk about. And what I'm going to do is tell some stories from my life. And I don't want you to think, well, the pastor's wife sure talks about herself a lot, okay? I chose to talk. I could have talked about stories from other people's life. People like stories, and it's easy to talk about things that I've been through myself. And so I'm going to share with you 3 stories from my life. And I hope it doesn't seem like, I'm not trying to focus on me or anything like that. I'm just using them to illustrate what I'm going to talk to you guys about. So the first one, in the scripture that I just showed you, it says, if you acknowledge Him, He will direct your paths. Or another version says, He will make your paths straight. And I worked in a ministry with college students for quite a while. And they always want to know, what should I major in? Should I change my major? What am I going to do when I graduate? What job should I have? Who am I going to marry? All this stuff. And so this came into play a lot, trusting God for direction. So if you had told me a few years ago that HL and I would be in Louisville planting a church, I would have probably thought you were crazy. I mean, what? Why would I leave Murray, and why would we plant a church? But that's where we are now. And so I'm going to kind of go back a little bit and show you how we got here. And I came to Murray State whenever, this is a picture of our beautiful library, one of them. I came to Murray State when I was 19 years old. I transferred from a junior college, and I've been a Christian since I was a kid. I've followed Jesus since most of my life, and I felt like that's where God wanted me to go. And I'll talk about more how to make those decisions in a little while. So I came to Murray State when I was 19, didn't know anybody. My parents dropped me off that weekend in August, and I was walking around the campus, and I was doing okay. It was new, exciting. And I saw this house that said Murray Christian Fellowship, free ice cream, something like that. So I go in, have myself some free ice cream, and I meet this girl named Missy Wilson. And we started talking, and we hung out later that night. And eventually, she became my roommate. I didn't know who my current roommate at that time, I didn't know her. And we got along fine, but she wanted a private room, and I really liked Missy. So we ended up moving in together and became good friends. And that first week, she invited me to a different campus ministry called Christ Ambassadors. And that's the campus ministry that HL was a part of and that I was a part of until I left Murray. So I went on that Wednesday night, and I saw HL for the first time. Very memorable moment. And in a good way. And of course, make a long story short, I might talk about that on another day, but I had a crush on him for like 5 years. He's 5 years older than me, and eventually we got married, okay, to sum that up. But so I came that first week, and kept coming back, a large part because of him. But I came back every Wednesday. They had a Bible study, and it was good. So I got my bachelor's degree in special education. And I was student teaching, and they offered me a job where I was student teaching at, which is ideal when you're student teaching. I mean, I liked Murray. I was fine with living there. And the lady that I was teaching with was leaving, and she really wanted me to teach there. She had like the school board person come and try to convince me, we really would want you to stay, we'll give you this much money, blah, blah, blah. But at that time, I had been doing a volunteer conversation class, teaching English as a second language to some international students. I'm from a small town in Illinois. I'd never met anyone that I can remember from another country except one exchange student from Brazil. So I loved doing that conversation class. And I was laying in bed one night, about to graduate, and I thought, I could go on to get my master's degree in teaching English as a second language because Murray State had that major. They had that graduate degree. So I did that. So they tried to, they wanted me to teach special ed, but I just felt, of course I prayed about it, but I felt like God wanted me to get my master's degree. So that's what I did. After I was finishing my master's degree, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I thought I might go to Thailand to teach English, or, I wasn't sure. I was a free bird at that point because HL hadn't made his move. So there was a job that opened up at the English as a Second Language program at Murray State. And just as I was graduating, the guy that was doing it was leaving, and he approached me and said, would you like this position? So there was a lot that went on. The position didn't exist for a while, and then it did exist, and there were budget cuts and so on and so forth. But I ended up getting that job, and that's what I've done the last 10 or 11 years before I moved here. I quit there this year. And so I taught English as a second language, loved my job. This is a picture of me with some of my students, and I got to meet people from all over the world. It was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful experience. Then HL approaches me, says, hey, let's start a church in Louisville. Everything felt right, it clicked. So, yes, after we were married. Go back to this. That's a good point. Yes, this is H wanted me to show you this picture. This is me feeding him grapes in a hammock. He chose this picture. So in the midst, right when after I got my master's degree is when we got married. And that's a long, very interesting, funny story how we got together that he'll probably talk to you about at some point, but I don't have time to go into it today. So basically, how I got from, I shared a little bit of it, from the time I was 19 to now I'm here in Louisville. And some people think that for God to direct you, for God to direct your paths, that you need to see like writing in the sky, or you need to hear an audible voice. And I think because of that, a lot of people who follow God don't do a lot. They don't take a lot of risk. They don't push themselves because they're waiting for like this word, the sound from heaven or something. And I don't tend to think you have to hear that. I think that God directs you through the Bible and if you pray. What I would do is I would pray and ask God, should I do this? What should I do? I would get counsel from people that were older than me, that were smarter than me, that had been following God for a long time. And then I would just do what seems right. I had peace about it in my heart. I came to Murray State not because, God said, go to Murray State. It just seemed right to me. I had peace about it. And I knew that it was what I was supposed to do. And when I married HL, when I got my master's degree and chose not to teach special education, it seemed right to me. I had peace about it. A lot of people would think, well, you should have taken that special ed job and paid off your student loans. But I knew that that's not what I was supposed to do. And the reason I think that I knew that is because I had chosen to surrender. And there's nothing special about me. I've made mistakes, but somehow God has worked it all out. And I believe right here is where I'm supposed to be right now. And it's a very good feeling to know that I believe that I'm where God wants me right now. And if you've made mistakes in your life and you feel like you're way off the path, or you married the wrong person, or whatever, hopefully not that. God can fix that instantly if you will just go to Him and surrender. If I try to take my son somewhere he doesn't want to go and he's pulling on me, it's really difficult to do. Or if you try to take like a screaming child that's kicking and flailing and try to make them eat green beans, probably not going to happen. And that's the way God is. God's not going to force you to do something. He can't make you do anything. But if you surrender, if I want to lead someone and they just go where I want, like this, then it's a lot easier. And God doesn't make it difficult. There's no special formula. There's no magic thing you have to do. The Bible says He will direct you, that He will teach you where to go. He will help you make decisions. All you got to do is surrender and then listen to Him. If you want to know, He will show you. If you seek Him, you'll find Him. And that's what I found to be true in my life. So if any of you guys are thinking about, should I switch jobs? Should I stay where I'm at? I just encourage you just to surrender and say, God, I'll do what you want me to do. If you want me to stay here another 10 years, even though I don't like this job, I'll do it, and He'll make it good for you. You just got to surrender and listen to Him. And then the next thing is to trust Him in the dark. And I kind of skimmed over one part of the story of when I came to Murray State. So I came when I was 19, and the first month that I was there was all good. It's fun, exciting, college, meeting all these people. I like my classes, blah, blah, blah. But after a few weeks, I went home for one weekend, the end of September, and I just had this, I don't know how to explain it. I started to feel a little bit homesick, and then I just started to feel like really sad. And I've never, my whole life before that, I'd never experienced depression or anything like this. But it started then, the end of September, and beginning at that time, it's kind of like a dark cloud just came over me, this heaviness, deep, deep sadness, and I felt miserable, absolutely miserable. It's like I lost hope. I cried all the time. I didn't want to go to class, and I just basically wanted to curl up in a ball in a room in the dark and be by myself. That's how I felt. And if you've ever been depressed, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. It is the worst thing you could ever go through, in my opinion. I just felt hopeless. That's the best way to say it. Is I didn't feel hope anymore. It's the first time in my life that I've ever questioned God, wondered if God existed. I felt like He left me, and it was very, very hard. And I thought about how I could die. I was somewhat suicidal. I thought I could go drown myself in this pond, and then I wouldn't feel this way anymore. And I thought, I could eat this poisonous, my mom had these poisonous beans or something one time, and I thought I could eat these, and then I wouldn't feel like this anymore. And I wanted to do that so the people that loved me, my parents, and they wouldn't have to deal with me anymore because I was crying all the time, and I felt so down all the time. And I wanted to relieve them. People say suicide is selfish, but I don't think, if you've ever felt depression, you wouldn't think that. So anyway, I don't know how it went away exactly, but it's kind of weird. I pretty much stopped reading the Bible. I stopped praying, and this was, over several months. And I did keep going to Bible study on Wednesday nights. I don't know why, I just did. And they asked me to go on a mission trip that spring break. And I was like, I'm in no condition to go on a mission trip. I mean, all I'm going to do is get there and cry all the time. It would be a bad deal if you... They didn't know. I didn't talk to any of them about it. Just basically my parents knew and my sisters what I was going through. So for some reason, I said yes. I said, okay, I'll go. I was like, what did I just do? So I went on this mission trip. And from that time, the depression just lifted. I don't know if it's because I made that decision. I don't know because I kept going on Wednesday nights, and I'm not sure what happened, but it went away. And there were other things that it takes too long to tell everything, but it went away, and I learned a lot through that experience. And I think, and it's not just about depression. If when you go through something, a great loss in your life, or a very confusing time, or it just seems like things keep happening to you, and you just feel lost, and you just feel dark. You just feel dark inside. I just encourage you not to give up. That's all you have to do. Don't give up. And this verse in the Bible, the end of the scripture says, when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground, and after you have done everything, to stand. And sometimes that's all you can do. You can't, it's so hard to keep going forward, and you just have to stand there. Just don't sit down. Just don't quit. Don't stop where you're at. Just keep standing. And God will give you the strength to do that. And there's a poem, a lot of you might know, it's called Footprints. It's kind of cheesy. It's been around for years. You can Google it if you want to read the whole thing. But it basically, and I think it's a true story, this woman had, I think it was like a dream where she was looking at her life, and God was showing her, walking like he was walking with her on the beach along the sand. And she saw, both of their footprints together. But then she said, God, why during the most difficult times in my life, why were there's only one set of footprints? And he said, it was then that I carried you. And so I think that's just an awesome illustration that when you're going through that hard stuff and all you can do is stand, that God, God's going to pick you up and he's going to carry you. That you have to trust him. If you turn your back on him and you quit and you give up and you don't surrender, there's not a lot he can do. But if you stay with him and you keep standing and you keep trusting him, he's going to lift you and he's going to carry you through those times. After about a year after my depression ended, I was at church once and I just closed my eyes, listened to the music, and I felt like that God showed me during that depression time in my life, it was like I saw just like this big, huge storm and the wind was howling and there was tons of thunder and lightning, and I was going up a mountain and Jesus was just standing behind me and he was holding me up just like this. And I felt like God was showing me when you were going through that, I was behind you the whole time. So I was just like, about to fall down and he was just holding me up. And he wants to do the same thing for you. If you're in a dark place right now, you can know that if you want him to be there, that Jesus will be standing right behind you, holding you up. And then the next thing, and I'm sorry this is kind of serious and down, it just is. I don't know. But the next one is trust him when it hurts. And whenever, after HL and I were married for about 2.5 years, we saved up and we went on a trip to Asia. And we hadn't been planning on having kids at that time. We knew we wanted kids, but we hadn't been planning to get pregnant. And night of passion in Cambodia, I got pregnant. And not planned. So I started feeling weird the rest of the trip. I had no idea that I was pregnant. Came home and I took a pregnancy test. We were totally shocked, but super, super excited, and told my family and everything. And then about a week later, I had a miscarriage and I lost the baby. So, of course, that's a terrible experience. And I, was very sad. And but that made me want to have a baby, for sure. So the doctor said, wait 2 months. So I waited 2 months. The third month, we tried, and I didn't get pregnant. And of course, I thought the end of the world. Well, of course, that's kind of naive. It takes a while sometimes to get pregnant. So the next month, I did get pregnant, and this was the result. Little Siler Hussman. He's 6 years old now. And so then, as soon as I got home from the hospital with him, I wanted to have another baby. It doesn't happen that fast. I need to recover, but I absolutely love babies. I love kids, and I was already, I think I was 29 at that time, and I was thinking I want to have more kids, 4 or 5 here. So I came home from the hospital holding him the day after, and I was like, I want to have another one. And he's just like, really? I'm like, yeah, I'm ready. But it didn't happen that fast. But so about 1.5 years later, I had breastfed Siler for a while, but my menstrual cycle still had not come back. Sorry if that's too much information, just the facts. So that was 1.5 years later, and so I went to the doctor, and he said, he did some tests and found out one of my hormone levels was a little off, and he gave me some medicine, some fertility medicine. Took it for a while, then I decided, I'm just going to wait. And I kind of, at that time, I talked to H about it a lot. I went back and forth between should I just wait and trust God or should I take medicine to make it happen? And I always struggled which one I should do. And I kind of ended up doing both. So I waited another year. It all kinds of runs together now. But long story short, I ended up taking some more fertility medicine, and about 4.5 years after Siler was born, and I got pregnant, and that was in February of 2013. So that was just last year's February. And super, super excited. I've been waiting almost 5 years. Couldn't have been happier. So everything's going great, and I go to the doctor for a test, and he said my hormone levels are a little off, so he wanted to do an ultrasound. So he does an ultrasound. I was a little nervous, having had a miscarriage before, it makes you even more apprehensive, thinking, is this going to happen to me again? So I went to the ultrasound. HO went with me, and the heartbeat was normal, and we were so excited. So when we heard that heartbeat, I just felt a surge of love for this baby. I mean, I know it's, so small, but that heartbeat, just the thought, so strong, and they're just fighting, that strong heartbeat. And HL, I asked him later, and he said he felt the same thing. He's like, yeah, I felt that too. I just really felt, I love this baby. It's how big is it? And we just already felt such love for it. So 2 weeks later, I started having blood again, and I went to the doctor, and he did an ultrasound. And this time, when I was laying on the table, I was just waiting, and there was no heartbeat. So, of course, that's terrible too. Have to walk back through the waiting room, try not to cry, and just a very, very sad experience. And, I know it's not the same as if I had known the child for years and years, but it's still very difficult. And probably, statistically, some girls in here might have had a miscarriage. And it's just, it's just a loss of hope is a lot of what. We had a name picked out. We had everything planned, when I was going to take off work. And then all of a sudden, all that's gone. And during the time that I've been waiting, these 5 years that I've been waiting to have a baby, there's a verse in Jeremiah that I felt like God had showed me. And I'm showing you this tree because it relates to the verse. But the verse is Jeremiah 17, 7 and 8. And it says, "Blessed are those who trust in the Lord, whose confidence is in him. They will be like a tree planted by the water that sends out its roots by the stream. It does not fear when heat comes. Its leaves are always green. It has no worries in a year of drought, and it never fails to bear fruit." And I felt like, I don't remember how I found this verse. I think it was like I flipped my Bible open or something weird like that. And I felt like that God was showing me that I was going to bear fruit. That even though it's a year of drought, that my body is not seeming like it can produce fruit, that he was going to do that for me. And so after I had this miscarriage, I went home, I read this, I was like, God, you said that you were going to do this, and here I am. And the next day, I just laid out in the hammock and just lay in the sunshine. And it was springtime, and so I love the springtime. This was in April when I had the miscarriage of last year. So I was so excited because, there's all the little rabbits are having babies and the flowers are blooming, and I was going to be pregnant, and, all this in my mind. And that didn't happen. So I waited a few more months. I ended up seeing an endocrinologist who gave me some different medicine, and I got pregnant 3 days after he gave me that medicine. And this was the result of that. This is Elena. And she was born on the first day of spring this year, on March 20th. And to me, I felt like that was God, showing me, you didn't get last spring, but this spring is yours. And it was very, very sweet. And, I know what I went through is not nearly as bad as what some of you guys have been through. And what people who have been through things like this. There's much more, terrible things that one can go through in life. This is just one example from my life. But no matter what it is, no matter how bad it is, God can change those situations. I don't believe that God caused me to have a miscarriage to teach me a lesson or to teach me, whatever. I think he used that to create something good in my life. And Romans 8:28 says that he causes all things to work together for the good of those who love him and who are called according to his purpose. And no matter what kind of bad things have happened, he can make something amazing and beautiful come out of that. That's what he does. That's his job. He sorts it out. And Corrie ten Boom, I think H.L. mentioned her a few weeks ago in one of his sermons. She was, in World War II, she kept Jews at her house. She hid them. And she ended up going to a Nazi concentration camp. Her sister died there. She's written a lot of books. She's she's not alive anymore, but she was an excellent writer. I encourage you guys to read some of her books. But when she traveled, she would a lot of times show this tapestry. This is the back. It's cross-stitching or something. I don't know. I'm not into sewing. But this is the back of it, and it's ugly. It's all messed up. I mean, it's kind of, weird looking. But when you turn it over, it looks like this. And it's beautiful. It's intricate. And that's what God does. He takes the mess that we live in, and he makes something beautiful and amazing out of it. So no matter what you go through, no matter how bad it is, God can make something beautiful. So whenever I was going through all that stuff, God was seeing this. He was seeing these two. When I was going through that bad, that's what he saw. And if you'll go to him, I think that's the key here, that if you go to him and you don't turn away from him, and you continue trusting him, and you don't give up, and you keep standing, this is what's going to happen. good things. It might not be fast. It might take years. But if you hang in there and you don't quit, God's going to make something amazing happen. And the Bible said, in John, Jesus said, in this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. He's beat it. He's got the victory. There's nothing that can happen to you that God cannot fix. There's nothing too big that he can't do something about it. And it's just simple. My personality is I like to figure things out. I like to know what's going to happen in advance. If you've ever driven in a car with me and I listen to my GPS and okay, what's the next turn? What are we doing after that? I don't like, HL's more like, oh, turn here, here we go. I like to know 5 minutes ahead where my turn is going to be. And a lot of people are like that. I like to have control of things, but life isn't like that. I have no idea where I'll be in 5 years or 10 years or what's going to happen to me in the future. But I don't have to be afraid, and I don't have to worry about it because I can trust God. So when you go to him, just tell him how you feel. Say, God, why did this happen to me? Why am I going through this? And don't compare yourself to other people. A lot of times we say, well, God says to trust him, but look at what so-and-so's went through. They've been to church their whole life, and look what's happened to them. You have no idea what that person is or what, you don't compare yourself. Your only job is to focus on God and who he is and his character. Don't try to figure out the why that things happen. You can't. The Bible says his ways are high, high above our ways, as high as the skies are above the earth. His thoughts are above ours. And we can't know. There's no way we can know what's going to happen and try to figure things out, the why of bad things that happen in this life. But what you can figure out is how good God is. If you read the Bible and you see all the things that he's done, if you look back at your life, you just reflect and see the good things that he's done in your life. Even if you've had a rough life, he has done good things for you. You might not see it, but he has. And so I just encourage you guys to go to him, tell him how you feel, and just surrender and trust. And he won't let you down, I promise.